Rebecca and Thomas Hale were the perfect couple, until one tropical vacation exposed a secret life of betrayal, crime, and a disappearance that would leave federal agents chasing ghosts across continents. Thomas and Rebecca Hale lived in an upscale neighborhood just outside Atlanta, Georgia. Their two-story colonial-style home sat at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac, lined with maple trees and well-manicured lawns. To the outside world, they were the kind of couple others envied, attractive, successful, and deeply connected. Thomas worked as a respected financial advisor with a growing portfolio of wealthy clients. Rebecca, an art teacher at a local high school, was well liked by students and parents alike. They threw charming backyard parties in the summer, volunteered at church events, and even hosted a podcast about marriage and personal growth. Everyone thought they had it all, but the perfection was only surface deep. Behind closed doors, the dynamic between Thomas and Rebecca had been shifting. What started as a passionate, driven partnership had slowly morphed into a cold routine. They no longer touched each other in the way couples do. Their conversations grew shorter, more logistical than emotional. Still, they played their roles well, smiling for Christmas cards, posing at charity events, and sharing filtered snapshots of their seemingly happy life on social media. It was Rebecca who began to pull away first. About 2 years before everything unraveled, she started taking solo trips. She claimed they were for self-discovery, time to reflect and reconnect with herself. The first was a long weekend in New Orleans. Then came a solo retreat in Sedona. When she announced a 10-day vacation to Jamaica with some old college friends, Thomas didn't question it. He had a client conference that overlapped with her dates and was happy to focus on work while she relaxed. Their lives had become parallel, rarely intersecting emotionally. On the surface, there was nothing suspicious about the Jamaica trip. Rebecca posted regular updates on Instagram, beach selfies, fruity cocktails, palm trees at sunset. She tagged resorts, used typical vacation hashtags, and even replied to comments from friends and family. It looked like exactly what she said it was, a tropical break with old friends. But what no one knew was that she had booked the trip alone. There were no college friends, no group itinerary. The entire vacation was a cover. In reality, Rebecca had joined a private online forum 6 months earlier, where affluent women discreetly arranged high-end experiences while traveling. It marketed itself as a luxury lifestyle service, but the boundaries were blurred. What started as flirtatious chats with athletic tour guides and yacht crews evolved into meetings with escorts and people connected to the underground party scene. For Rebecca, it was thrilling. An escape from the monotony of her marriage, a way to feel desired and in control. In Jamaica, she met 10 different men over the course of her stay. Each encounter was arranged through an encrypted messaging app. Some were casual and transactional, others more intimate. Several of the men introduced her to expensive liquors, designer drugs, and connections she never expected to access. She didn't ask questions. She didn't want to know their histories or their motives. She just wanted the escape, the rush, the sensation of being seen. When she returned home, she slipped back into her routine as if nothing had changed. Thomas noticed her new wardrobe, the extra jewelry, the shift in her attitude, but he chalked it up to post-vacation glow. He had no reason to doubt her. Not then. Rebecca resumed teaching, posted about her students' projects, and even hosted a dinner party the week she got back. Life went on as if her double life had never happened. But the truth never stays buried forever, and the choices Rebecca made on that vacation were already starting to ripple outward in ways she never imagined. 2 weeks after Rebecca returned from Jamaica, everything seemed normal on the outside. She slipped back into her daily life as though the trip had never happened. Her skin still carried the soft bronze glow of island sun, and she wore a subtle air of confidence that hadn't been there before. Friends at work noticed she seemed more relaxed, more energetic, and even Thomas, busy with quarterly reports and looming deadlines, found himself pleasantly surprised by her change in mood. But beneath her polished surface, something else was brewing. Something far darker than anyone realized. It began with a news article buried deep in the crime section of a Miami newspaper. A man was found dead in a hotel room near the airport with no identification, no credit cards, and only a burner phone on him. The cause of death was listed as an overdose, but the amount of drugs in his system raised suspicion. Local authorities believed he may have been part of a trafficking network, but without ID or prints on file, there was little to go on. A week later, his phone was unlocked by federal agents using specialized software. What they found shifted the case from routine to alarming. The phone contained dozens of encrypted messages, photos, and location data. In one of the images, a familiar face appeared. Rebecca Hale, seated beside the man at a beachside bar in Jamaica, wearing the same green sundress she had posted on Instagram. She was smiling, holding a drink, completely unaware the man next to her would be dead within days of arriving in the U.S. This connection caught the attention of Homeland Security. They had been quietly tracking members of a Caribbean-based network suspected of smuggling cash, weapons, and synthetic drugs across borders using unsuspecting civilians as carriers. Rebecca, until now unknown to them, was suddenly a person of interest. Her digital footprint from the trip was retrieved. Flight records, hotel reservations, text logs, social media check-ins. Everything began to align. The phone found in Miami also contained wire transfer confirmations, one of which matched a transfer Rebecca had made during her trip, supposedly for travel expenses. Investigators were puzzled. Rebecca didn't fit the profile of someone involved in organized crime. She was educated, middle class, with no criminal record, and no known associates tied to trafficking. But her presence in multiple images alongside individuals flagged for criminal activity, and the encrypted messages recovered from their devices couldn't be ignored. Meanwhile, back in Georgia, Rebecca remained unaware of the investigation building around her. She was planning her next solo retreat, this time to Costa Rica. She had already begun chatting with new contacts through the same private network, intrigued by offers that promised even more luxury and adventure. Her behavior at home grew more detached. Thomas began to notice subtle shifts, late nights out for book club, missed calls, sudden withdrawals from their joint account, but he chalked it up to stress, or maybe an early midlife crisis. He never imagined his wife could be involved in anything criminal. The turning point came when a second man, another one of Rebecca's vacation contacts, was arrested in Houston. During questioning, he revealed bits of information about a woman he had met in Jamaica, who moved crypto for the team. He didn't know her full name, but described her perfectly. When federal agents ran facial recognition against tourist photos tagged in Jamaica during that week, it confirmed the match. Rebecca Hale. Now she wasn't just a person of interest. She was potentially a link in an international laundering operation. Federal agents began to monitor her movements, track her financial transactions, and build a timeline of her communications during and after the trip. They still didn't know how deep her involvement went or whether she even realized the extent of what she had stepped into. But the fact remained. She was no longer just a suburban art teacher. She was at the center of a growing web of criminal intrigue, and the consequences of her island getaway were only beginning to unfold. As the investigation into Rebecca Hale intensified, the trail of evidence began to unravel in directions no one had anticipated. What started with a single photo on a dead man's phone had become a sprawling web of connections, transfers, and hidden identities. Federal agents traced phone records, encrypted chats, and foreign bank accounts, slowly uncovering a loose but dangerous network that operated under the radar of traditional law enforcement. And sitting right in the middle of it, perhaps unknowingly, was Rebecca. The next major development came from an unexpected source. A seized laptop belonging to one of the Jamaican nationals arrested in a joint DEA and ICE raid in New York. Buried deep in the hard drive was a folder labeled only with a string of numbers. Inside were transaction logs, passport scans, and a list of names. One name stood out: R. Hale, Georgia, USA. Listed beside it were dates, airport codes, and 3 transfers made in cryptocurrency. The amounts weren't massive by cartel standards, but they were enough to raise suspicion. Rebecca wasn't just a tourist who got too close. She had been used, either knowingly or not, to move digital assets from one country to another. The investigators now faced a critical question. Was Rebecca a victim of manipulation, or was she actively participating? To find out, agents obtained a warrant to review her financial records and personal devices. What they uncovered only deepened the mystery. Over the previous year, Rebecca had made frequent purchases in Bitcoin and Monero, both favored by criminal networks for their difficulty to trace. She had also downloaded and deleted several secure communication apps, including one known for being used by traffickers and smugglers. Her search history revealed tutorials on digital wallets, blockchain transfers, and international wire regulations. The evidence began to suggest that her involvement went beyond simple naivety. Rebecca appeared to understand how to move money discreetly. She had used prepaid cards, fake business names, and even listed artwork sales on PayPal as an alibi for larger deposits. Still, she had no prior criminal record, no history of financial struggle, and no signs of coercion or blackmail. It was as if she had slowly chosen to enter this world, step by step, until she was in too deep to turn back. At home, the cracks in her marriage to Thomas grew wider. As federal investigators worked quietly in the background, Thomas began to feel the strain. He noticed inconsistencies. Rebecca leaving the house in the middle of the night, claiming she was helping a friend in crisis. Credit card statements showed hotel stays and luxury purchases that didn't match the life they lived. When he confronted her, she became defensive and evasive. Still, Thomas said nothing to anyone. He didn't suspect a crime. He thought she was having an affair, but Thomas had secrets of his own. While agents reviewed Rebecca's transactions, they noticed an overlap with some flagged financial activity tied to offshore accounts. Further digging revealed that one of the shell corporations used to funnel money from Jamaica to the U.S. had been registered by a consulting firm Thomas had done work for. He claimed to know nothing about it, but the links were too precise to be coincidence. Now both Hales were under scrutiny. The possibility emerged that this wasn't a story of a wife gone rogue. It could be something bigger, something coordinated, even if neither of them fully realized it. The investigation, once focused solely on Rebecca, began to pivot. Agents started looking into Thomas's business, his client base, and his connections to financial firms in the Caribbean. Meanwhile, a third man from the Jamaica trip, another of Rebecca's contacts, was found dead in a motel outside of Dallas. No clear cause, no signs of violence. Just another body, another link cut from the chain. With 3 dead, 2 under surveillance, and countless digital threads still untangled, the case took on a more sinister tone. What had started as a cheating scandal had become something far more dangerous. And the deeper investigators dug, the more it looked like Rebecca Hale was not just a bystander, but a key piece of something that no longer seemed random at all. As the investigation expanded, it became clear that Rebecca Hale's story was no longer confined to the murky realm of extramarital secrets or digital flirtations gone too far. It had evolved into a multi-state federal probe that now threatened to dismantle the carefully controlled lives of both Rebecca and her husband, Thomas. What no one had expected, least of all the investigators themselves, was that the man who had initially appeared to be an unwitting husband might actually be more deeply entangled, than anyone realized. It began with a lead traced from one of the cryptocurrency wallets used in Rebecca's Jamaica transactions. The wallet's origin showed ties to a larger laundering operation involving a Miami-based shell company that had received funds from Caribbean accounts flagged for suspicious activity. One of those shell companies, buried beneath layers of corporate jargon, had been established with legal assistance from a financial firm that Thomas Hale had previously contracted for private wealth management services. When agents subpoenaed internal emails from that firm, Thomas's name appeared more than once. His digital signature had been used to approve documentation, and although the wording was vague, the transactions pointed to high-value, fast-moving capital coming from sources well outside normal investment portfolios. For Thomas, the timing couldn't have been worse. Just as federal agents began questioning his colleagues, a whistleblower came forward, a junior accountant who claimed that Thomas had quietly overseen special accounts for high-risk clients, some of whom used false identities and foreign addresses. Thomas denied any wrongdoing, but now the assumption that he had been clueless about Rebecca's activities started to unravel. Instead of two people living separate secret lives, the idea surfaced that they had been part of the same machine without even knowing it, connected by business and betrayal in equal measure. Meanwhile, Rebecca was beginning to feel the pressure. Surveillance footage confirmed that she had met with at least 3 individuals tied to the Caribbean network after returning from Jamaica. These meetings took place in various cities, Charlotte, Tampa, and New Orleans, each coinciding with unexplained gaps in her school attendance. Each city visit was followed by transactions involving cryptocurrency to cash conversions through peer-to-peer platforms. This pattern was consistent and deliberate, and although no direct confession was obtained, the circumstantial evidence painted a damning portrait. The pressure intensified when agents uncovered a private storage unit rented under Rebecca's maiden name. Inside were several burner phones, a passport with stamps not listed in her known travel history, and a duffel bag containing over $80,000 in cash. Investigators speculated that this may have been her personal escape fund, an insurance policy in case the operation collapsed or she needed to vanish. And still, neither Rebecca nor Thomas seemed to fully grasp the scale of what was closing in around them. While Rebecca maintained that her involvement was limited to brief flings and financial curiosity, the hard data told another story. While Thomas insisted he was merely a financial consultant, the connections between his work and offshore laundering rings were growing too tight to ignore. Then came the biggest twist yet. One of the men connected to the Jamaica ring agreed to cooperate in exchange for a reduced sentence. In his testimony, he claimed that Thomas had not only known about the movement of funds, but had given Rebecca advice on how to hide them. According to the witness, Thomas had provided tips on which wallets to use, which platforms offered the least scrutiny, and even recommended using art sales as a cover. It wasn't just suspicion now, it was testimony. This revelation turned the case upside down. Investigators had started by looking into Rebecca's illicit vacation and uncovered what looked like a sprawling financial operation involving both spouses. But the most startling realization was that neither seemed to be fully aware of how far the other had gone. It was a double betrayal, each spouse hiding a separate crime that had somehow intersected at just the right moment to explode into public view. The image of the perfect suburban couple had completely collapsed. They were now 2 primary suspects in a federal case that was growing by the day. And just as authorities prepared to arrest both of them, something unexpected happened. Rebecca vanished. Rebecca Hale was scheduled to appear in federal court on a Monday morning. Her lawyer had arranged a plea discussion, hoping to negotiate a reduced sentence in exchange for her cooperation. The government had built a strong case, with enough digital evidence to tie her to at least 3 instances of laundering, each linked to broader criminal operations. Surveillance had been steady, her passport confiscated, and she had been fitted with a GPS ankle monitor. Everything was lined up to move forward, until she disappeared without a trace. It began with a simple anomaly. Her ankle monitor stopped transmitting at 3:14 a.m. on a Saturday, its last signal placing her at a rest stop off Interstate 10 near Tallahassee, Florida. By 7 a.m., law enforcement was alerted. The device had been cut with precision, no sign of struggle, no hasty removal. Nearby surveillance footage showed her stepping into an unmarked white RV with tinted windows, accompanied by an unidentified figure wearing a hooded sweatshirt. The license plate was missing, and the vehicle's driver had taken a route that avoided major toll roads and traffic cameras. When federal agents searched her home later that day, Rebecca was gone. Her closet was half empty, her laptop wiped clean. The storage unit where they had previously found burner phones and cash was now emptied out. Investigators believed she had been planning the escape for weeks, possibly even months, and had activated her exit plan the moment she realized the full weight of the charges against her, and her husband, was about to come crashing down. The manhunt began immediately. A BOLO was issued nationwide. Airports, bus terminals, and Border Patrol were notified. But no new evidence turned up. She had disappeared as completely as if she had never existed. The media caught hold of the story within days, spinning it into sensational headlines. The once beloved art teacher turned money mule was now a fugitive. Online forums lit up with theories. Some claimed she'd fled to South America. Others insisted she was dead, silenced by the same people she had tried to work with. A few even suggested her husband had helped her escape to shield himself. Thomas Hale denied any involvement in her disappearance. In interviews, he portrayed himself as a man betrayed, blindsided by a woman he thought he knew. But the timeline raised suspicions. In the days leading up to Rebecca's vanishing, Thomas had transferred $50,000 to a previously inactive account. The account was later linked to a digital bank based in Panama, known for lax regulations and anonymous transactions. When questioned, he claimed the money was for legal fees and family support. Authorities weren't convinced. Despite the growing cloud over his head, Thomas was never charged. Insufficient evidence kept him just outside the reach of prosecution, though his reputation was permanently scarred. He lost clients, his firm faced internal audits, and his podcast about healthy relationships was quietly deleted from the internet. Some believed he knew more than he let on. Others thought he too had been caught in a storm far beyond his control. Months passed, then years. Rebecca Hale remained on the FBI's wanted list, but no credible sightings were ever confirmed. Occasionally, a blurry photo or vague tip would emerge from Belize or Colombia, but nothing concrete ever materialized. The case slowly faded from headlines, becoming another unsolved chapter in the annals of digital crime and personal collapse. In the end, the story of Rebecca Hale became less about guilt or innocence and more about the dangerous intersections of deception, desire, and power. What started as a tropical escape spiraled into a chain reaction of betrayals and secrets no one was prepared to face. And somewhere out there, if she survived the fallout, Rebecca was living under a new name, carrying the weight of a past that had shattered more than just her marriage. It had broken the illusion of safety in the quietest corners of suburban life.